filling in for Alex Jones. Yes, you're listening to the Alex Jones Show, and we're talking with John B. Wells, who, of course, is the Saturday night host of Coast to Coast AM. His website, caravan2midnight.com, is worth checking out. And we're talking about preparedness. We're talking about government control of information. And, you know, a question. Well, oh, wait. Let's take some calls. How about that? John, you up for some calls?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, let me give out the number. The Sunday call-in number is 877-789-2539. 877-789-ALEX. So call in there. We'll get you in the queue, and you can be on the air with John B. Wells. Have a question for John B. Wells. Please don't have just some random comment that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, please. And John's got a wealth of knowledge, so you can hit him with almost any topic, right? I mean, you cover all kinds of things, John. A lot. The depth of the topics you cover is much more than what we would typically cover here. You mentioned some of that earlier. What are your favorite areas?
Everything that we cover on Coast and everything that you cover on Infowars. Seriously, it's we're having a waterfall of information now. There are a lot of contributors there, and this is known. So of course there's a good shot of disinformation in there also. But the thing that I suppose I'm interested in the most is the direction of civilization. I don't know about you, but I have family members that I expect to outlive me, and I really don't. I don't want them to ever think of me as someone who did nothing to prevent what they may have to live with later.
Sure.
And we've just lived too large and gotten too fat, figuratively speaking, and literally. I mean, type 2 diabetes is off the chart because we just won't stop harming ourselves. You know, Mike, sometimes I wonder if there isn't some sort of a lemmings rushing to the sea syndrome that has taken over the minds of at least a measurable segment of the population, because it's almost as though people have decided that the whole thing is too big, it's too messed up, it's too corrupt, the whole thing should just fall down. I don't know what they think is going to follow that, but I think it's mostly anger over a feeling of helplessness and not having the power to affect any change at all. And they're continuously messed with by one thing or another. I mean, in this country, you buy your home, or you think you've paid it off. Well, now you get to pay your property tax, or your home will be taken away.
You don't have real ownership, yeah.
I mean, where are the hours of real living that we thought that we were going to be entitled to through technology and an advanced civilization? We just run from one little fire to the next and knock it down to where it won't burn up too much stuff, and then run over the next little fire and put that out, and then, we have to go back to that one. And really, they keep us walking on I say that's the government and the media that supports them. And in my opinion, the mainstream media is nothing but a propaganda wing. Never has been anything else since certainly the mid-'70s.
Well, sure.
And, and I mean, just because somebody is a good musician or a bad musician that makes a lot of money and sells a lot of records, or you're a movie star or something, actors, as like Orson Welles said, actors aren't really anything, are they? They don't. They're actors. They portray characters. So an audience falls in love with that character, assigns those attributes to the actual actor, and then follows them in their political ideology. This makes no sense to me.
No, but it's all irrational. And you mentioned something earlier that I want to get into in more detail with you, that maybe there's this subconscious desire across the population for self-destruction, to just end it all.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm convinced that if Obama right now announced that, to save the planet and reduce CO2 emissions, that let's say 50% of the population needs to line up in front of the incinerators and just sacrifice themselves for the good of the planet, I'm pretty sure that you'd find about 50% of the people that would gladly do that, as long as Obama asked them to do it.
Oh, I assure you someone will show up. It won't be me or you, but someone will.
No, it won't be us. We'll be watching from a distance, videotaping it and putting it on YouTube. But people will show up and fry themselves as long as they're told it's for the better good. I don't get that.
Well, it's just like, remember Doe out there in San Diego? He was going to catch up to the UFO flying in the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet, and took all those people with him. They all drank the Kool-Aid and died right there in that house.
Applewhite was his name, or Apple?
Something like that.
Heaven's Gate cult, yeah.
Yeah, and his name was Doe. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's right. They poisoned themselves, yeah.
Yeah, those people killed themselves. People want a leader. This is known. If a leader is charismatic, If he has something to offer them, they'll follow him. They followed Napoleon. They followed Adolf Hitler. They followed Joe Stalin for a while.
So how do we teach people or awaken them to the basic principles of controlling your own destiny, having that free will, having that level of consciousness to know that you're worth living? I mean, that's what you and I, we talked about this on your show last week. How do we really get that across to people, man?
I'm inclined to say disconnect from the machine. Disconnect from the machine and stop participating in that which you are loath to participate in, but you do anyway. Let's go to this Chick-fil-A thing just for a second. Regardless of what side anybody's on, I don't care about that as far as the conversation at present is concerned. Well, what I took from that whole thing was that you spend your money. I mean, this protest over a statement that a guy made and should be entitled to make it result in this big protest. Well, then there was a counter protest, which resulted in, I suppose, this company made its whole year in one day or two. And that's a family-owned business. It's not publicly traded stock. It's a multi-billion-dollar family-owned Christian business. If somebody has a problem with that, I mean, it was so pathetic. Somebody says, "My sandwich tastes like hate." It's like, I got some news for you. Nobody cares if you're gay. Nobody cares if you're straight. Nobody really cares what you do with your genitals unless you're like Anthony Weiner and you want to put him up there on Facebook or something or whatever he did, the moron. That guy is a moron. He's a public official and he behaves like that. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's just stupid. So the point is, put your money with the people you want to support and who support what you support. Do not spend your money with people who represent values that you don't hold as values.
Well, clearly, and I thought the whole message of the LGBT community is tolerance. I thought it was a message of tolerance, and then they couldn't tolerate Chick-fil-A. So all of a sudden, it's flipped around that now the Christian has to call for tolerance. You know what I mean? Like the white conservative Christian family has to call for tolerance. It's a bizarre world.
Well, it's another example of the squeaking wheel gets the grease, and the one that squeaks the loudest gets the most grease. And that's why these pro-socialists and anarchists and everything else, look, anarchy is going to get us nowhere. I mean, that's a recipe for a bigger disaster than the one that caused the anarchy to begin with. That's just stupid. Evolved people do not engage in anarchy. It's moronic. It's savage, and we have enough of that. You
and I think. Of course, you can answer this. I think we both believe in a local, community-based peace officers who are of the people, by the people, for the people. We believe in laws. We believe in not harming your neighbors and expecting your neighbors not to harm you. We don't want anarchy. We want people to behave like adults.
We want law and order is what we want.
That's right. And we want to go to a break here, too. One more break. And when we come back, we'll have callers on the line. Sherry, Fred, Karen, and much more with John B. Wells. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we're going to go straight to calls in this segment with John B. Wells, our guest here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. Thank you for continuing with us here. We're going to go straight to calls. Hopefully calls about preparedness. I guess we will find out. Are you ready, John?
Absolutely, positively.
All right. If anybody can handle calls, you can. So let's go straight to it. Sherry from Missouri, you are live on the air. Welcome to the show. And do you have a question for John?
Well, what I'm curious about is that a lot of us have been awakened to the truth of what our government is doing to us. But what we're looking for now are solutions. And I would say that has to come from the Constitution. And how do we hold these servant government, I even hate to use the word officials,
right,
their feet to the fire? What do we do when they are outright just annihilating our Constitution?
All right, good question, Sherry. Let me hand that over to John with also the note that according to the FOIA documents we covered earlier in the show, the Oath Keepers is considered a, quote, hate group by the Department of Homeland Security. What do you think about that, John?
It's ludicrous, just like most of the rest of the Department of Homeland Security. Thanks for the call, Sherry. To answer your question, you must improvise, modify, adapt, and overcome. You see the nature of the beast you are fighting. So what do? Well, in the Stone Age, you use stones. In the modern age, you use the courts, just like over this NDAA thing. I believe it was 6 people, possibly more, got together and just decided to sue on the basis that this NDAA, this National Defense Authorization Act, is unconstitutional. And a judge said, you know what? You're right. Then what you do is you reach out to your friends. You tell your friends about Infowars.com. You tell your friends about Coast to Coast AM. You tell your friends about caravanofmidnight.com, because we have articles on there that, they're not going to post on other homepages other than Infowars. Some of them come from Infowars. Then what you do is, when your mainstream media fails to report these things, such as 2 witnesses saw 3 or 4 guys at the Sikh temple doing the shooting, not one guy who conveniently shot himself and disappeared, you tell them, if you don't knock this off, we're going to contact your advertisers, and we're going to tell them that we're going to start a massive movement. We won't be buying products that are advertised on your particular network if you don't stop this. If you want to get somebody's attention, hit them where it hurts. Hit them in their wallet. And trust me, you will get their attention.
Yeah,
tell your friends. Involve everybody who will listen. Ask questions. Do not make statements. Be persuasive. And bring them into the fold.
You nailed it. I mean, it's get organized and start asking questions, and don't put up with the status quo answers.
File a suit.
Yeah.
It's done every day. File a suit. File a bunch of suits. Let that get into the press. Let that
Absolutely.
Go viral on the net. Get it on. Take them on. Look, we're all toast anyway. Every one of us is going to pass away from this life. Now, do you want to stand for something while you're here, or do you just want to sit there and take it?
Well said. Well said, John. Let's go to the next caller, Watchman from Florida. You're on the air with John B. Wells. Go ahead, Watchman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to make a statement here that basically being prepared for what's coming and the insanity that we see taking place within our own government, I think it's very wise to prepare. That is key. However, I think people must look past that, because I, as a Christian, I believe the Word of God, and it tells us that these things are coming. Now, no matter how much one prepares in the physical, that's not going to stop. I mean, it's great to protest against things that we know are not constitutional. But in the end, we all need to make sure that our souls are prepared, because as Jesus stated, what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? So if you've got a lot of food stored up and ammunition and all that, if you lose your soul in the end, none of that stuff is really going to even matter.
Yeah, good point, Watchman. Go ahead, John. Your comments.
Watchman, you do have an extraordinary point. Yeah, you really do. And gee, it's really kind of a unfashionable thing to be Christian and to profess it these days. Mostly because the ones who are not Christians don't understand that it is known that we are going to make mistakes and sin and lust and do things and do things we didn't even mean to. I believe what you're talking about is spiritual defense, and believe me, that is a large component. A motorcycle crash. Now, people do this all the time, so this is my little personal experience. Of course, I have my unique perception of the events, but there were also witnesses to it. When I crash this bike, and the last thing I see on the speedometer is 67 miles per hour, and I go instantly to the pavement, tumbling in morning traffic that's moving very quickly, very congested. I know that there's traffic around me. None of this stuff hits me. And then the witness to this says, control settled over the whole situation. No slamming of brakes, no horns, nothing. It was just everything came to a calm halt. Well, I know what name I cried out for, but it was a call. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm checking out, help me.